If you've invested or plan to invest in the Dominican Republic, then you got to watch this video. Big news came out recently where a bunch of projects were halted. Construction was halted. Let me read you the actual announcement. The Municipal Council of Higüey issued Resolution 09-2025 ordering the immediate suspension of these projects. Larimar City and Resort. If you guys have seen all the ads on YouTube, in fact, there might be an ad coming up here in a second showing Larimar. They pay a ton of money for YouTube ads, so that project is halted. Alta Vista Village 1 and 2, Cruise on Land, and Residencial Paradise City, all halted due to a lack of authorization for land use changes. So look, I want in this video to do a deep dive on what this all means, and on the heels of the Navasco real estate scandal, is it time to panic? I'm gonna dive into that. So let me give you first an idea and a rundown of a few things that I've learned throughout the process and throughout the time living here from talking to multiple realtors, developers, and people in the know. First is this. This is being halted because they're saying they pretty much don't have the permits necessary for the usage of the land. Now in DR, there are at least 4 permits that developers need to get, and they need to get them in order, and this is my understanding of the order. The first is the permit called Ayuntamiento, which is delivered by City Hall. The second is Turismo, which is given by the Minister of Tourism. The next is Ambiente, which is given or issued by the Environmental Department. And the last one that I have right now is MIVED, M-I-V-E-D, V like Victor, E-D, which is issued by the Housing Department. There's also Confotor, and from talking to a few realtors, there's like 1 or 2 more that the government has out there that they might be implementing. So these are the 4 in order that I'm certain of, and then there are more that I've learned about even since the beginning, like in the last few minutes before we're even recording this video. So do your research. So you have to have all 4 of those by the time the construction project is done. You don't need to have them in place before you start construction. That is not a requirement of these permits. However, again, if you have, for instance, the tourism one, which is second in line, then it means you have the first one. You can't get the second one without the first one. You can't get the third one without the first and second, so on and so forth. So what's going on with this whole deal is, as I talk to people, you know, the rumor mill is thick, and this is one of the issues down here of having sort of like a non-centralized database like MLS that's actively used, that there's a lot of conjecture and rumor. So I talk to some people and they're like, man, I heard Larimar doesn't have the permits. These are realtors. And then other people are like, no, they do. I heard Cruise on Land doesn't have the permits, those being the 2 biggest projects, Cruise on Land and Larimar. So I wanted to get to some ground truth, and here's what I learned. Permits have been issued to both. Not all the permits, but some of the permits. So I'm looking right here at the Ambiento. So as I talked to you, it was the third one, the Ambiente, the third one in order, which means this particular development has the first 3, right? They have all 3, and maybe they have the 4th one, I just haven't seen it, but this is for Larimar. Here, I'll show you. This is for Larimar, if you can see that on my dirty computer. So the Ambiental for Larimar City and Resort, this is public record, it has been issued. So they have that permit. So for those of you that have invested or been thinking about investing in Larimar, just know that they have some of the permits, even though the news is saying, oh, can't do any more construction. I'll talk about why, because of lack of land use permitting and so on and so forth. Similarly, for Cruise on Land, I have right here in front of me, and I'll show you again, permit the Ayuntamiento, which is the first of the 4, right? So the first of the 4 they have, and here I'll show you this as well. Here it is. As I try to, let me see if I can make sure you can see that. Yeah, you can. So I always mess, Ayuntamiento, and it is Cruise on Land. So this has been issued to them at least, and maybe there are more, I don't know, but that's the one that I got my hands on, so I can see that they actually have it. So let's start with the news you hear. Somebody, I think there's hundreds, if not thousands, of people who invested in all of these projects, but these 2 in particular, and they're going like, oh my God, am I getting scammed like the Navasco thing? Is it all coming to roost now? And there's a lot of people out there, honestly, and maybe some of you are watching this, doing this, that are licking their chops and being like, yeah, I've been telling people. Well, I need you to sit down for a second because I'm about to get real with you. So here's the deal. Here's the deal. Why this was all halted is political. It's political. These projects jurisdictionally are, like if Punta Cana is here, well, let's do it this way. If Punta Cana is here, this is the coast. This is easier. Yeah, whatever. Punta Cana is here, this is the coast. And over here is Higüey, which is directly inland, right? These projects are like up here on or below a cliff. They're in this area. So this is sort of an area called Otro Banda. It's near Higüey. It's not Punta Cana. They're marketed as Punta Cana. They have an ocean view from sort of like land that's a bit further inland, a bit further west. And all of this, yes, is Altagracia, the province, the same county essentially. It's all the same county, but you have Higüey as a municipality, you have Otra Banda as a municipality, and you have Verón Punta Cana as a municipality within that. Now, there is, just as an aside, that doesn't have to do with this, but has been a dispute about the fact that money that funnels into Punta Cana, Cortecito, has to go to Higüey, which is the provincial seat, and then they get to determine where it goes, and it doesn't all come back to where the money originated in some cases, which there's some consternation about that for developers selling projects. You're like, hey, we've sold all these projects, we got all this money, it went to you, and then you used it elsewhere. We need some of that coming back. None of it came back to us to help do the roads in Cortecito and so on and so forth. And it looks like that's getting righted. So Punta Cana Verón, for instance, wants to have its own like county. It wants to carve off from Altagracia, is what I hear, for that very reason. But that's not at play here. That's just an aside. What is at play is you've got 3 municipalities all battling over land rights. Taxes, revenue, everything, like who's supposed to get it. And like any political bodies, when there's this dispute or whatever, somebody says, you know what, we're going to put a halt. Think about it in the United States when like a federal judge halts a lawmaker, a president, whether it's Biden or Trump or whomever, they halt their resolution because they say, oh, I don't believe in its constitutionality. Usually, if they're halting Trump's, they're probably a left-leaning judge. If they're halting Biden's, they're probably a right-leaning judge. Supreme Court, obviously, in the United States, there's a whole debate about, not debate, but there's a whole concern about that it is stacked with conservative judges. There's a reason why there's a concern there, because everyone has a political bias. Same thing here. Whichever municipality is halting this, and I can't get into the whole ins and outs of it, but wherever this is coming from, it strictly has to do with a land rights deal. And I think any developer anywhere in the world, in the United States or anywhere, can probably empathize with the crap you have to put up with when you're making something, when you're building something. I'm sure we all know stories of like a local code enforcement officer who makes it a lot harder on certain businesses because he's a bit of a stickler for every little I dotted and T crossed in the code versus the ones that are a little looser. I'm sure we all know stories of like city council members who have a beef with the builder on a project, a construction company, because God knows why. They had an affair with their wife, who knows, right? But like that's more what this is like. This for me is more like, it's going to be a pain in the ass for these projects. There's nothing at all, nothing even a bit to suggest that these projects are scams or below board or not moving forward. I know at least one of the development companies has a deep history. It doesn't mean that the projects can't go bad. That's true of any investment, of course. But this is going to get a lot of attention on the heels of Navasco. But at this point, and from everybody I've talked to from all levels that like, don't like, everything, no one is saying anything other than like, look, they're reputable companies, but this is going to be a pain in the ass for them. That's what the consensus is locally. Again, these developments have permits, at least the 2 I talked about. There's a couple of others where the construction is halted. I haven't looked for the permits. The 2 biggies are Larimar and Cruz on Land. So I figured I would research those, and I have access to people who had those permits easily that they could send to me and show me. So what do you do if you're an investor or a potential investor in these projects? Well, the first thing I do is subscribe to this channel because I send you all the information unbiased without any thoughts on it. Nothing's unbiased. Of course I'm biased, but seriously, subscribe to the channel. I try to update people on what's going on in the real estate market down here, and I hope it helps. Stupid mosquito. But second, honestly, is you should call your realtor if you dealt with one on the project. Get right up in there, talk to the realtor, what's going on, what's the next steps, what do I need to think about, and I would do the same with the development company. This is if I were invested in these. If I were invested in these, that's exactly what I would do. I would go to the developer, I'd go to the realtor, and I'd want to know exactly what's going on for a couple of reasons. One, for the knowledge, but 2, I'd be curious how they respond. Are they going to be transparent and open and honest? Are they going to tell you don't worry about it, which I think is a little too dismissive? Or are they going to give you like an honest feedback, like, look, this is a pain. We got to deal with this, this, and this. We're confident we can. We're already in touch with lawmakers. Here's the permits. I want you to see what we have. Your money is safe. Everything's good, yada, yada, yada. Like, I'd be curious to see if I'm you, how does the developer and how do the realtors react to this? The other thing I would do if I were you is I would make sure as you're going through this or any project that you're looking to invest in, to make sure you adhere to a few key principles with due diligence, and that is the developer experienced, and by all accounts, from what I can tell, they are. Are they local? And I know my kids go to school with two of the developers on one of these projects. My kids go to school with their kids. So I've been to birthday parties with some of these developers. Again, not going to get into who and specifics and all of that, but they're local. I know where they live, literally. I can go, actually right now, go knock on a couple of their doors. I know exactly where they live. So that's a good thing, in my opinion. And what's their history? Have they been through some stuff? In the case of one company, from what I understand, they've done projects locally, they've done projects overseas, and they've been through a few different market cycles. So I think the key here is I don't see any smoke or fire. People are going to scream scam. Again, some people out there are going to be like, Jamie, what you don't understand, and with this and that, and this is all just the tip of the iceberg, and blah, 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 blah. And that's fine. Have your worldview. I don't see it that way, and none of the facts shake out to make that true. Here's the facts. Navasco is alleged to be a fraud, and it doesn't look good. I got to say alleged. These projects have been halted by a land use issue. These projects have at least some permits that are required and are applying for more. And I see nothing to say that these projects are not on the up and up. There's no evidence, not even close, of that. None at all. The challenge that these projects face by most locally is that, man, they're kind of inland and they're kind of ambitious. So they're big projects and they're further inland. That's the biggest complaint I hear locally about those projects. If there's a lack of belief in them, it's not their financial stability, it's not their experience, it's not their ethics. It's just, man, I don't know about that project being where it is, and I don't know about that project being as big as it is, which these projects know, and they do a good job of pivoting their marketing and maybe doing this in phases as opposed to saying, we're going to build all of this all at once. So anyway, I don't think it's time to panic. In fact, I would say this to all of you, like, calm the heck down. For those of you that are all up in arms, that haven't invested, for those of you that have invested, have a financial interest, I would pause on panic, and I would talk to the developer, talk to the realtor if you dealt with them, to get the ground truth and to get a real sense of what the plan is going forward. But again, I know developers in the states that get delayed because of permitting issues, because of code enforcement violations that they didn't even realize were in place, that somebody found because they felt like it. I know there's quotas in the states sometimes for fines, and code offices go after them. In fact, I'll tell you this, when we had two properties in a town in upstate New York, and then we were listed, we could see that we were out-of-state owners, we would get like these crazy little violations for like snow accumulation. We weren't there to see it, so they would just ping us on these $35 fines all the time. We ended up selling those properties, and we talked to another owner, and we're like, you didn't get these? You're out of state. He goes, no, you don't send a gift to the code office? I'm like, no. That's how I avoid my fines. That's what you assume happens here, not in the United States, but it happens everywhere. And the point I'm making is development is a crazy world. There's a lot to it. Don't panic. That's not what the purpose is right now. Just make sure that you have communication with your developer and go from there. On that note as well, I'll put this out there because a lot of people, like here, I get a little bit, I don't want to say scared, but like concerned that I could overly promote something. And two things I talk about all the time, and I financially benefit from, to be clear, is Boardwalk Developments, who I invested with in Cortecito, and the realtors that I refer you to. Both links are down below if you want a referral to either. But I'm becoming more and more resolute on the idea that, man, I haven't yet been proven wrong by my realtors, by them being, really good. I've sent them different developments that I've had thoughts on, and they all come back separately saying, I wouldn't, or yep, that's good. So there's a lot of consistency amongst the best realtors. And on the developer side, my God, I mean, the work that Cheryl is doing with Boardwalk, Cheryl Henderson, who's the founder of Boardwalk in Cortecito, some people don't like the area. They think it's not far enough along. They feel like it'll never get there. That's fine. I see the exact opposite being here. I see that area becoming much bigger, much better than it is right now, and it's already a cool spot. There's already a ton of demand and desire there. So I'm going to say, if you're like, I want to invest, I'm not emotional about the investment. I want to make sure I'm parking my money with a developer that seems to be, on the money, well equipped to handle the ups and downs of the market, and is open and honest and transparent. talk to Boardwalk. My one-bedroom apartment's 170 grand. It might be a little higher now, might be 180 for the next level of since the development's further along. And I've got other videos on the channel showing you exactly what's happening with it. But those are two ways. You know, you hear what I talk about and then you take a look. I'm not saying blind trust me. You shouldn't do that either. But it's not a bad thing to talk to these folks, get a sense, make sure you're serious. Don't waste their time if you're not willing to invest, you're not ready to invest. Don't click any links. But if you're saying, no, I've been wanting to invest, I've got the capital and the desire, but I hear these news stories, they scare me. Well, here's two options I would implore you to explore because I can honestly attest to working with them. Same with a real estate attorney. I have one down below. In fact, I had another attorney I was referring to quite a bit, and I wasn't happy with the responsiveness, so I've not referred to that one, and I referred to a different one, and I've worked with both. So I've still worked with both, but I'm always looking at who I refer to and making sure they are top-notch, and I don't specifically share their names publicly for that reason. I don't want you to associate me with any individual unless I referred them to you publicly. In 3 months, one of my realtors that I refer to aren't good, I want to get rid of them and be done with them, and you don't need to know who it was or whatever. You just need to get the best referral partner that I can give you. There's my pitch. That's how I can help, but more than anything on this issue, don't worry about it. Not right now. I don't see anything to indicate that there's a worry. If it changes, I will absolutely let you know. Grab my newsletter, another link down below. There's 4 of them. Just click them all. But grab my newsletter down below, and I report out on this stuff on a weekly basis, and I hope it's helpful for all of you. But until then, I'm going to enjoy this beautiful day here in Punta Cana. I'm filming this today on Sunday, February 23rd. Probably release it today, maybe a little later on tonight. And yeah, I hope you all have a great day. I'll talk to you soon, and let me know what questions you have. Drop a comment down below.